Shalom. All praise is due to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rach Quadash, the honor city elect, Apostle Bishop Elder Zachariah Millstone, ever well. Shalom to like Ak out there doing this work in sincerity and truth, and not for vainglory in season out of season. Shalom to the elect men, women, sons, and daughters of the nation of Israel, which are the elect men, women, sons, and daughters of you so-called Negroes, West Indian Haitians, Hispanics, Latinos, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, and the rest of the Israelite faunas that scattered through the four corners of the earth. Okay, let's get right to it. Let's get right to it. Genesis 3:16. It says, until the woman, which was Eve at this particular point, okay, unto the woman, he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children. And that's why women, for the most part, have a hard time in having babies, coming through their womb, because Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai put that spirit on them to go through a lot of hell when they have babies. Okay, some women go through it with hours and hours and hours and hours. You know what I'm saying? They have complications. Esau's pumping all kind of painkillers in them to numb the pain of them having babies. So that's what it is. That it says sorrow in thy conception, and sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, because we know the man puts the seed, his sperm, in the woman. The sperm is the baby. She eats this baby. The baby grows in her womb, and then the baby comes forth out of her womb. It's a lot of hell for the woman. So that's what that's talking about. It says, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. So this whole notion that we're equal, a man and a woman is equal, that's not true, because that's not what the scripture is saying in the book of Genesis from the beginning. And if you want to go into the New Testament, because you don't want to deal with the Old Testament, the rehearsing of the righteous acts, which are the law, statutes, and commandments, like not eating pork and, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, honor thy father and thy mother. You go into the New Testament and tells you that a woman is not supposed to usurp authority over a man. Okay, look that up. But we're living here in hell in America. We lost you so-called Negroes, West Indian Haitians, Hispanics, Latinos, Native Americans, Seminole Indians. We have lost our rulership over our woman. Okay, all right, because Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai took the rulership from us to rule over our women, which in the beginning, you see, that's how it was supposed to be. Okay, all the way to the book of Genesis. So if you ask a Christian, what do you know is the book of Genesis in the Bible? There? So yes, the book of Genesis is in the Bible. Okay, so they know that the book of Genesis is in the Bible. It's just that they want to negate, everything that was written in the Old Testament, and they just want to go with the New Testament when the New Testament condemns them as well. Okay? It says, unto the woman, he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, which is a man, and he shall rule over thee. So this whole notion of, women preachers, and they're teaching men and in the church, female pastors, and female judges, female police officers. You may have a woman at your job is the boss over you on a job. That's off. That's not how it's supposed to be. But living in this society of the so-called white man, like the scriptures say, surely you're turning of things upside down. See, the so-called white man has turned everything upside down. He went from the man ruling over a woman to a woman ruling over a man. That's why the scriptures say, behold, a new thing, a woman shall compass a man, if I'm saying that the right way. And they said that's a new thing in the earth, because this is not how it was supposed to be for the nation of Israel. For you so-called Negroes, West Indian Haitians, Hispanics, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians. Okay? All right? But we're going to get the rulership over our women. Again, all that shit talking, that chihuahua talking, like a chihuahua. Chihuahua's always barking all the damn time. And, the so-called black man. And, the reason why I focus on, it's all the tribes. It's West Indian men, Haitian men, Latino men, Hispanic men, Native American men, Seminole Indian men. Of course, we don't have rulership over, none of those tribes have rulership over their women. But the reason why I focus on the black man so much is because that's the worst case scenario. Not worst case scenario. That's the worst tribe that's going through the most hell with their woman. Okay? Which is the so-called black man. All right? The black woman, she's completely out of order. She does what she wants to do. And the so-called white man backs her up. You know what I'm saying? So, it's like even the same very verse. Let's go up to it. It says, now the serpent, which is the so-called white man, was more subtle. It wasn't a snake. It was an actual man. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the field represents the world, which Yahweh power had made. And he said unto the woman, which was the black woman, okay, Eve, which is a so-called black woman, a FBA woman, okay, foundational black American woman, which some of you jakes like to call them. Yea, hath the power said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but, which is the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, that's the trees, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the power hath said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Okay. And the serpent, which is a so-called white man, said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. For the power, Yahweh, doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman, Eve, the so-called FBA, Foundational Black American Woman, which you like to call them, or the African American woman, or whatever you want to call them. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, the wisdom, knowledge, and that force, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that she was getting, that Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai told us not to deal with. Well, Yahweh told us not to deal with it because Yahweh Shai was Adam. He was on the earth at that particular time. And that it was pleasant to the eyes and a tree to be desired to make one wise. She took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. You see, bro, so, see, you know, which goes to show you that woman is, she's simple-minded, man. You know, see, the serpent, which was the so-called white man, okay, even though, you know, he had color back then, he knew to go to the woman. Because a woman, she's easy to be manipulated. And man, are you black women easy to be manipulated, man. Manipulated, okay? I said manipulated. Yeah, you know I'm from the hood, right? Okay, she's very easy to be manipulated, okay? You know, it's one thing about the black woman, you know, she wants to rule, man. She wants to run things, you know. She wants to have the authority over her man, you know. And plus, she's weak-minded. She's simple. She's simple-minded. The black woman is simple-minded. That's why the serpent didn't go to Adam. Adam would have told him where to go. No, the serpent went to who? He went to the woman because she's stupid, man. And not stupid in a negative way, but the woman needs to be guided, man, by a man, you know? So she's simple-minded, you know? That's why the scriptures call her the weaker vessel. All right? You know? And yeah, you know? Now, did Adam eat of that knowledge of the tree? Yeah, he did, because he got weak for his woman. You know? But she's the one that was in transgression first, not Adam. And the scriptures tell you that. Okay? You know, because a woman always wants to be the top of the ball, man, especially when it comes to you black women, man. Yeah, you got West Indian women, you got Haitian women, you got the Puerto Rican woman, you got the Dominican woman, you got the Latino woman, you got the Native American woman, you got the Seminole Indian women. You got all these women, true. You know. But especially the black woman, she really wants to rule shit. She wants to run shit. And that's not what the scriptures say. She's simple-minded, man. She's simple. She's simple in the mind, but yet she wants to run the show. She wants to tell the so-called black man what to do, like she's so intelligent. She's not. She's simple-minded. Okay, that's why the serpent, which would become Esau, which is a so-called white man of today, that's why he went to her. Okay? You know? All right. So, you know, I just wanted to read that. Your man is going to rule over you, black woman. You know, the so-called black man is going to have rulership over you for all eternity. Not at this particular second right now, but it's going to come a time where the black man is going to have rulership over you, and you're going to be pleased by that because it's in the scriptures. Even over here, these women are going to fall in line. Isaiah 4:1. All right. Okay. And that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man. He's not going after these 7 women. The women going to come after him. A man of the Lord. A man of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai that's fed, clothed, protected. Okay? When in the time of Jacob's trouble. All right? So, hope you've been edified. And with that, shalom.